UFC ballots that were placed in PPP envelopes. Now, that being the case, what it means is that if we had used the statement of poll as delivered, that would not have been discovered. It is only now being revealed because you went back into the envelopes, and in those envelopes, you recognize that a lot of the votes for the APNU AFC in Region 1 were placed by a lot of these POs into PPP envelopes. Interestingly, we are not finding in APNU AFC envelopes PPP votes. Again, that sends a message of a pattern. If it is a pure case of POs making mistakes, ROs making mistakes, then you would have found at least a reasonable amount of this happening where PPP votes are found in APNU AFC envelopes. So that's not the case. The only votes that are being found are APNU AFC votes in PPP envelopes. What that says to me, it's a pattern. We have long argued that a lot of the POs were compromised. Even before the elections, we were pointing out to the Elections Commission that many of the POs were on the campaign trail. I know of 3 cases in SEQ of a family who were campaigning openly for the PPP and was a PO on election day. And therefore, one could not expect them to operate objectively and as an impartial. And so we want to make this clear that we have seen here a pattern of POs who do not believe in the independence of the Elections Commission, and they operated in the interest of the political party they supported and compromised the results in the election. So there are many other things we will point out apart from those who voted while overseas, those who are dead and voted. We've managed to have a constituency called the cemetery, and they came from there and voted. So those are the ones I want to bring to you at this stage.
How many additional votes did your party gain in Region 1 from the recount?
Based on what can be discerned from the recount, it's like 120. But may I say this to you? A recount will only be able to identify those problems that you can identify from the box. A recount wouldn't be able to tell you that George voted twice, which we know was prevalent in all of the areas. I brought it to the attention of the PO. They merely said it was a mistake and some mix up the names.
They didn't ink her finger?
If what?
Her finger, the ink.
You're Guyanese? You should be aware that the People's Progressive Party has mastered the art of ensuring people put grease on their fingers and then easily remove the ink. Let us live in the real world. Political parties that rig elections, ink is not a problem. I invite you to put grease on your hand, put on the ink, and then go and get a little bleach and tell me if you will see the ink. So while I accept your question, it's not a question that will solve any problem, because in large measure, people who plan to rig do the things to ensure that the ink will come off.
The matter you mentioned with the grease on the finger, were you not aware of this before calling it? Be able to
We are aware of it for years. All and sundry are aware. But what could you do about it?
Maybe ask the poll and their staff to have something to clean somebody.
You can ask the pool and their staff to take the grease off of somebody's hand. Let's be realistic.
But did you make this complaint known to the commission when you discovered that this woman is it?
Yes, I spoke to the Region 3.
Was it recorded? Do you know?
I doubt whether it was recorded. They weren't recording any. Look, one of the flaws in this system, and I can tell you it. I can give you a case at K-Wall School where a woman came to vote with her husband, proxy. She went and she voted and then came back to vote with for the husband. That under the law is not permitted. She was supposed to vote there. I objected, and I always remember the DRO, if I see him I can tell you who he is, said that it is GECOM that will decide. And they decided that she can vote. And when you tell them to record it, they didn't. And you don't want to be an APN UFC supporter fighting in Canal Pola.
So you spoke about the stamp not being on the ballot paper. Could you say if when APNU made its request for a meeting, if that was chief among the concerns that you laid out to the commission ahead of that meeting?
Which meeting? We haven't had the meeting.
I know, you're hoping, but I think you would have had to send a letter ahead of that meeting.
Well, I don't think the letter will identify the details. But I do believe and know that our commissioners will raise it. We'll raise all of these that we are seeing at present.
In relation to the presiding officers that you mentioned campaigning with political parties, I know one instance where GECOM would have terminated that person's contract before polling day. Were you aware of this issue before polling day?
It was brought, if you ask the comrades in the Essequibo, it was brought to the attention of the RO, and they merely changed the polling stations that they operated. I think they moved them from somewhere in the coast and put them at Tapakuma. But I can get the names for you, as well as where they ended up working. So by the time you arrive election day, you now recognize that these people who you're objected to, are now working in the Tapakuma.
If GECOM says to you that because there is no stamp on the ballot, they can't deem that vote to be valid, what's your next step?
Well, the truth of the matter is there are some contradictions. On the work order that GECOM put out, it says once the vote, the intention is clear that the vote was going to that political party, then it should be recorded. Now, you have to juxtapose that with a law which says it should have the 6 digit. We will protest it because we believe we should get the votes. But in the final analysis, we're not sure which side it will come down on.
On what basis your party will accept the results from the recount to declare communal president?
I didn't hear that.
On what basis will your party accept the results from the recount to declare a winner of the election?
Well, first of all, the president has made it clear, assuming credibility, that once the recount is a proper recount and the elections could be considered credibly, he's prepared to accept it. He's made that clear. In fact, it is only the government side that has said that so far.
Were you determined to be credible given all these anomalies that you will?
Well, you want them to get my view on where it is heading? I'm seeing a penchant for lack of credibility.
You're finished?
I mean, if I'm finished.
What is your reason for making that claim, Mr. Mark?
I am seeing large amounts of people. All right, let's go to credibility. What is credibility? Something is credible when it is reasonable, believable, when it is rooted in law and rules. If people from overseas who are not in the jurisdiction voted, then almost axiomatically credibility is questioned. If the dead votes, and we don't have to go far, while the PNC was in government, Dr. Jagan and the PP cried for years that those elections weren't credible because the dead used to vote. If the dead vote in this election, it affects its credibility.
Where does that leave this election now?
Well, that is not a pronouncement for me. That is a pronouncement for GECOM. I can only give you political party position and my understanding of it. But I cannot go to pronounce on where this will go. I read the order, which is what I'm supposed to do as a political activist. And the order says a report will be prepared by the CEO and then presented, and it will be dealt with at the level of the commission. But I cannot say where this will go.
You can take a position.
Why do I have to?
So you don't take a position on where this issue of credibility, how it affects the election?
My president has said, once these elections are credible, he will accept the outcome.
He actually said that it has been free, fair, and credible. And now
He said what?
the elections were credible. And now
He never said that. He said they were free, fair, and orderly. Now, they're two different things. You can't check credibility totally from what happened on election day. And it should be obvious to you now that that is the case. Because on election day, you would see people, they go and vote, etc. And you see it is orderly. You might say it is fair, but people in PPP stronghold told us that the PPP was intimidating them and putting pressure to them, so that puts free in question. Now what is being revealed here is making fear questionable. Now, when somebody pronounces an election like observers do, a lot of times they pronounce from appearance rather than actuality. Because you only, if you're an observer, you're moving from area to area. You wouldn't know all the shenanigans on the ground.
And the recount so far, you would have raised certain anomalies, and then you said you would have known about some of them even before. How is it then that your party was pushing to use the declarations from the 10 districts to declare?
Because in Region 3 where I was, we asked for a recount. We had established that there were serious questions. I want you to go and look at the results in farm and compare them with what the PPP had. We asked for a recount in Region 3. Personally, I was the person, and it was refused. So that answers your question.
Even after the recounts that you asked for were refused, your party still asked for the results to be used to declare the winner.
When did the party ask for the results to be used to declare the winner?
Joseph Harman has said that the president should be sworn in on the basis of the 10 results which were placed at the
That's a pronouncement, not a question. We didn't ask anything. What I understand they were saying, and there's a difference between asking for somebody to be sworn in and making a pronouncement, and based on what we saw, we thought the president should be sworn in.
Why ask for a president to be sworn in on the basis of an election which is so questionable, Mr. Norris?
This level of lack of credibility is becoming fairly manifest in this process, not before. One of the things the recount... I didn't hear that.
You noticed them since before elections?
There were a number of things before the election that put credibility into question. Let's go them through. First, there was an attempt to get a new list. You know who proposed it? The People's Progressive Party. So, what happened? Guyana went into an election with an electorate of 700-something thousand people, but a voting list of 600-something thousand. Now, it's a mathematical impossibility. If 18 years and under in your population is 26.6 or 0.2%, and your voters list is more than 76% of your population, that right away raises credibility. We were pointing out to you that we were pointing out to GECOM consistently the amount of scrutiny of POs who are campaigning for the PPP, close to the PPP, and who are becoming POs. Some of them we managed to get change. Many we didn't. You want me to run through more of what predated this credibility crisis in the election, or those will suffice?
But your party wanted the president sworn in on that
Of the results of the election, even though it was not credible.
even
In
on
your
those
words.
grave issues of credibility.
Could we work logically?
Okay.
You had an election. The APNU claimed it won. The PPP claimed it won. Which results you think we would want to be sworn in on? Not the one that said we won. No, the question of the credibility of the election was always there. From the inception, we said that the voters list like that. And personally, I was involved in a number of PNC press conferences where I said a voters list like that will cause the election to be questioned. Now that we're at this point, you're having the evidence of the lack of credibility. don't you think, I have heard the PPP said that they were going to swear in Irfan Ali. Were they on incredible results? Huh?
Do you believe that the returning officer for Region 4, Mr. Mingo's declaration was false?
I'm in no position to say.
Have you compared these SOPs for Region 4 to what is coming out of the report?
In some areas, yes, and there are areas where I saw what Mingo put out was correct, and there might be areas where it wasn't.
You observed areas where they were not correct?
Where they were correct. Yes, and I think at least one, not the thing that came out from the newsroom. In my opinion, that was garbage.
Where they were not correct?
I think there might be one and two where there are errors. It's a human process. Don't forget, Go Cool Voodoo made many mistakes.
What about Mr. Golding's numbers?
What about him?
Yes.
First of all, if you go to read the international rules and observers, you will know one of the positions is that an observer should be impartial. An observer really should have no links to the contestants in the election. Golding, whose credibility has been in question in his own country, cannot be considered credible to observe an election. He compounds that with a personal relationship with the opposition leader.
But are his numbers false? Are his numbers false?
I don't know anything about his numbers. Anything that, listen to me, this is a man who wrote the US government to protect a drug dealer.
But you have not examined his numbers.
If I have examined his numbers, no. I start from the position that Bruce Golding lacks credibility and should be an observer for anything. I have no interest in paying attention to anything that comes out of Bruce Golding's mouth or what he writes.
But Mr. Patterson said that your party would frontally address his numbers, and you have never come out to frontally address his numbers. Now you're saying you're not going to.
You asked me. I never said that. You didn't ask me about the party. You asked me about me.
Okay, your party. Has your party looked at his numbers?
I can't say yes or no at this stage. I can check for you.
Sir, if you were if the APNU-ARC was concerned about Mr. Golding's credibility or his integrity, did it object to him coming as an observer upon learning that he was among those appointed for the OAS?
I don't know that they did that. And in the hustler bustler running an election, I don't think anybody paid any attention to who the observers were. One person who I'm in contact with from the Carter Center just called me out of the blues and said he was here.
Mr. Norton, what do your party statement of poll say?
What is our party statement of poll? First of all, I want to say this. No. I want to deal with SOPs. I'm going to pass it. First, I want to say this to you. When a party has its statements of poll, it is for its use. And it has to decide strategically and tactically when it releases it. And if we made a decision that we don't want to release it, that's our strategic position. And we have no apologies for it. And if you go now and check the PPP release statement of poll against Region 1, tell me about the accuracy and come back.
Would it not be beneficial to show the public that yours are true?
Would it not be beneficial to show the public that ours are true? First of all, I believe all statements of poll will have errors for different reasons. And right now, I do not believe it is in our interest to get involved in the issue of statements of poll, or else we would have done that long ago. I can show you statement of poll from Region 3 that I collected. And when you check it against what has happened now, you know it wasn't correct. In one case, the joint services votes weren't even put into the mix. Oh, I should make another point to you. In many areas, the joint services votes, they didn't stamp. I probably made a point before. So, statement of poll has its own pitfalls, it has its strengths. When you're in a political process, you have to recognize that anything you do will have negative and positives. It is the leadership that weighs it and decide At which point they will do what? And what will be efficacious for them.
So has the party now ruled out the swearing in of a president on the 10 current declarations?
If the party has ruled out,
The swearing in of
the
a
party
president.
is focusing on this process, and whatever comes out of this process, once it's credible, we will then move from there. Thanks for having me.